Hey guys, let's talk about shoes. The half marathon clinic. You guys at this point in a half marathon clinic should actually know what type of shoes you need, right? Stability, neutral, motion control, whatever, right? So I won't talk a lot about that. I will talk more about some of the changes in technology in the shoes. I will talk about the difference between winter shoes and trail shoes. But let's start with shoes basically. You know the idea, right? If you need support, you need support. If you don't, you don't. And if you need a lot of support, well, you need a lot of support. But things have changed through the years. I want to get that point made right now, because there's a lot of changes. What we used to think of as shoes, we used to think different, like shoes. When I bought my first pair of shoes, I did the whole gait analysis thing where I had to walk, do a squat, do a lunge, see if I had balance, see if I pronated, underpronated, overpronated, and apparently at that point I really overpronated, so I needed a shoe. A certain shoe was called a motion control shoe. The one I bought was by Mizuno called it's called Mondo Control, so that sort of says it all in one word. So that sort of was where I started, and then I went to like stability shoes as well because I needed the support. Was told I needed the support at that time. And I just remember probably about almost 2 decades ago, there's an article in Runner's World magazine, and it debated whether all these stability and motion control shoes caused more injuries than they cured. And I remember that, like almost like the next day, I walked in the running room where we used to have like 4 or 5 or maybe 6 motion control shoes, and we had a lot of stability shoes. That had changed. We had like maybe 2 stability or motion control shoes. The stability shoes had shrunk, and we had way more neutral shoes that just worked with your feet. The interesting thing was some of the shoes that we actually had that were stability shoes, like I'm gonna say the men's, or the Asics Nimbus, this puppy here, it was actually called at one time a stability shoe. Now it's just called a cushioning shoe, a neutral cushioning shoe, or yeah, both mean the same thing. Now it's neutral cushioning, but you know what, secret? It's still got some stability in it. But we'll talk about that in a second. So now things have changed. Things have changed. There's been a huge shift 2 decades later, where a lot of physiotherapists and stuff were actually really leaning away from having motion control shoes and stability shoes. I don't know if they said because it hurt your feet or bothered you or anything, but what we've learned through the years is it's just not about our feet, right? It's about our knees and about everything else. So yes, first of all, shoes. Why do we need shoes? I'm not going to talk about that. I'll talk about this after this recording if you guys want me to. But cushioning we needed. But did we need stability? Did we need that much motion control? And I'm gonna say for some people, yes. Some people, it's like orthotics or something like that, right? So you actually need that type of support. But for most of us, it's all about the stride of how we run, right? What our feet do. And I don't know if I mentioned this, but or told you guys this, but the thing about running, we always think running. A lot of people think running is from heel to toe, right? That's the way. I'm not going to go into midfoot, toe strike, whatever, but that's the way people thought we run. But we don't. We don't do that. What a lot of you guys will notice, this part of the shoe usually wears out really quickly. People come to the store and say, hey, I underpronate because I wear that part out. Guess what? If you run, that's where you're going to wear out all the time. What happens is the way you run, and this, if you ever watch a track meet and see people run in track shoes, you'll notice this too. It's not that. It's outside, inside toe. That's the natural stride. It's underpronating a little bit. Oh, I'm going to say supinating. Sounds better. And then pronating and push off your toes. So pronation and supination is pretty much normal for a normal runner, right? Some of us don't do that. Some don't make the transition. That way we need some support or corrective support, I'm going to say, or maybe just guidance. So what's happened is, I think Brooks is one of the first shoes that did this. I said, wait a minute, do we need all that support? Because the whole point is just to push off your toe in your run. Not the inside of your toe, not the outside of your toe, but dead on. So what do? Do we need that big honking piece of plastic that most shoes have now? Like the New Balance, they've got this little bit of here that forces you, so there's no way you're gonna pronate, right? Well, that's not really what you want, because we all naturally pronate. When we walk, run, we pronate. It's natural. If somebody comes to the bar and say, hey baby, I pronate, big deal, everybody pronates. So what happened with Brooks, I'm gonna grab a shoe I don't normally grab. There's a Brooks shoe called the Brooks Glycerin. This puppy here. It's probably one of my favorite shoes ever. Lots of cushioning, but it didn't come with support, right? It was just a cushioning shoe. It just worked with your feet. Whatever your feet want to do, it did. It's for people that don't pronate, don't need extra help. They just naturally run properly. Well, what Brooks has done is they've taken a shoe. I can't actually see the glycerin right now, so I'll grab the adrenaline. Oh, there's glycerin. What they've done is they said, okay, instead of forcing the feet, we're going to guide the feet. We're almost going to make it like the guide rails on a bowling lane. I don't really like that analogy, but I can't think of another one right now. And we're going to do bumpers on both sides of the shoe. So if you underpronate, it will help you guide your feet to push off your toe. If you really overpronate and would normally run on the side of your foot, it's going to guide you to push off your toe. So on the outside of the foot, they've got guide rails on this part. And on this side, they got guide rails on this part. So instead of forcing your feet, it just guides your feet naturally, and then you push off your toe. So they did this, and they've actually done this to a lot of their shoes. But I think the neatest thing about this used to be, actually the stability shoe they used to have was called the Transcend. They dropped that name, just said glycerin. It's got the baby, nice soft cushioning, which I really love, and then just guides your feet. Cool. They've actually got a couple of shoes doing that now. The Adrenaline is another one. They've got another one called the Launch that does that. I think they're going to do that. And they've even done with their motion control shoe, which you would think is really weird. But motion control was actually built to force your feet. But what they've done is they've taken out that support. It's a stiffer shoe for sure. It won't move a lot. It's got this sort of, we call it the straight lasted, so it almost doesn't have a curve to it. It's almost straight up and down. And it's got the guide rails just to guide your feet. Bonus. And lots of cushioning too, which is kind of cool. So they've done that. So they did that, guides your feet. So other shoes are starting to do this a lot. Saucony's done that. I'll grab this used to be called, they used to have a shoe called the Hurricane. They dropped that, they brought in this, it's called the Tempest. When I first heard it, it was called the Tempest. So I thought maybe Shakespearean, but no, some of you guys won't get that. Anyway, what they've done, again, if they changed the cushioning in the shoe to add more stability, and then again, it just guides the feet. What they've done is really neat with the cushioning is most cushioning you just sit on top of. Well, they made the cushioning so you sink down a little bit into it, so you get a little support from that, a little stability. It's actually, if you've never tried one of these shoes, they've actually done it with I think with the Ride as well, and it's nice. So again, guiding your feet rather than forcing your feet. Different shoes, different technologies. Hoka. Hoka, again, I don't know why we call these stability shoes anymore, because they're really not. I can't see the Hoka right away. There it is, the Rahi. Again, Hoka is known for their cushioning, right? And also the other thing they're known for, there's a thing called the midfoot rocker in the middle of the shoe. If you run in these, you're gonna notice there's roll you right away, even if you walk in them. A lot of people feel like they roll you backwards. They actually roll you forwards, propel you forwards, because running is not a straight up thing. It's a series of stops and starts. If anybody tells you if you land midfoot, you're not stopping, guess what? There's always friction. When you land on your feet, there's friction. Unless you're running in zero gravity, that's happening. But I love that they say it's a series of stops and starts, so they try to promote like you're running. What they say is like running down or biking down a side of a mountain on a mountain bike. You're just moving. So that's as close as you're gonna get, which I love these shoes. But their cushioning's amazing. Their stability is called a J-plate on the bottom. And it just, again, guides your feet. Guides your feet to push off the toe. So another shoe, different technology. They've taken up the clue. So great shoe. Again, if you need really a lot of stability, I'm not going to say not to go to stability shoe, but I think more and more what's happening, I think it's going this way. So yeah, there's some people that need that. So maybe there'll always be one shoe that does that. Again, Nimbus, again, they've taken out the big honking piece of support on the bottom. Guide your feet. A shoe. It's called On. The brand is called On. Neat thing, Hoka is designed by ultramarathoners who live in the French Alps. Ons are designed by an ultramarathoner and triathlete that lives in the Swiss Alps. If you watch the Olympics from Tokyo, most of their track stars were wearing, older track stars were wearing On footwear. So On's done an interesting thing. If you don't know about these shoes, is again invented by a triathlete. I think he won like $1,000 or something in a race. He decided to invest it and try to build running shoes for him. So what they did was they took a shoe, they cut up a garden hose and put it at the bottom of the shoe, and that's what they got. Pods. And now he's like rich. So hey, just come up with something like that, you'd be rich too. Anyhow, so what they've got is pods on the bottom. These things are supposed to collapse. I'm not going to try. I'm not Schwarzenegger. I can't do that. But when you land on them, they collapse. So it's like landing on a cloud, and then you're pushing off a hard surface, which is really cool. But the neat thing about the pods, they can do anything they want with these things. They can harden, they can soften, whatever they want to do. So this is what they call their stability shoe, Cloud Flyer. And what it does is they've hardened where they need to, soften where they need to, so when you actually run, you're naturally guiding your way. So yay. Interesting thing. And these things are really, I'm gonna, not odd, but weird. I'm gonna talk about traction in a few seconds. I didn't think these had any traction at all, but a few years ago when I had a pair of these, mine was called the Cloud Swift, which is a neutral shoe. Remember when I said I started in motion control shoes? I now run in neutral. I actually run almost everything. I just like shoes. But anyhow, these things were like the best thing in the world. I was running up ice. My friends in traction aids were slipping. I don't know if it's because of the compression that you get more of a grip, but that made all the difference in the world. So neat, and probably one of the most natural running shoes I've ever had. It's like you don't realize you have shoes on your feet. So if you have a chance, try the ones. And I'm not going to say the thing that, you know the thing where somebody says this shoe's your best shoe, you have to buy the shoe. Just because it's your best friend's shoe doesn't mean it's best shoe for you. We hear that a lot. My friend says I should try these. Well, maybe it's not the shoe. Again, Hoka is like our nurse's shoe. So I'm sure if I walked into the hospital here in St. Albert, every nurse is going to be wearing Hoka, except for maybe one or two who came in and said, it's not the shoe for me. So now, we've talked about shoes. Let's talk about winter shoes and what that means. Trail shoes, can you use trail shoes in wintertime? You can use any shoe in wintertime. I used to be the guy that used to say you can run it in street shoes all winter long in most cities. Just be careful, watch for the black ice. Most trails will have some grass on the sides of them, so you can run on that. Look for spots where there is no ice, and just be careful, shorten your stride, make sure you have a good grip, because most shoes have a tread of some sort. And then I'm gonna say this out loud. I know my boss doesn't like me saying this, but I've had a really bad fall. It's gonna be 3 years this November. And I'm just gonna say it took me out of running for a year, and it was really kind of traumatic. But ever since, I've worn traction. It was just a stupid day, and I'm gonna tell a story. I went for a run. It's a slippery day. I drive to a place called Kinsman Store Center. Normally it takes me 30 minutes. It took me an hour just because it's so icy and there's cars and ditches and stuff. I get down there. I've got to go for my run. I've got to get that run in. And I grab my shoe. I have my shoes on. I've got actually the Rahi on, and I had traction aids in the back seat of my car. I could have put them on. I didn't bother. And it's slippery. I was trying to make it up this hill to Queen Elizabeth Park. I was sliding all over the place. But I figured, okay, there's an off-road trail. I'll take that. I took 2 steps. I was on my back. So again, ever since then, I say, why take the chance? Traction aids, winter shoes, you got lots of options. You don't have to do that. So I'm going to say, guys, it's an option for you guys in Vancouver. Remember, it can get slippery in the rain. So, and you do have, I've been in Vancouver. I lived in Vancouver. You guys do get snow and it does freeze. So I'm going to say, just be careful. There's different types of winter shoes too that might work better in other different towns. So what you're looking for in a winter shoe, again, trail shoe, say something like, where is Peregrine? It's on here somewhere. The Peregrine 12. So this is a trail shoe made by Saucony. It's a trail shoe. It's got traction on the bottoms, right? It's got the lugs. But the difference is going to be the compound that they make the rubber out of. That's going to be the biggest difference. So this will give you some traction on snow and ice, but not a lot. It's built for rocks, dirt, mud, not necessarily. They have to have a shoe that's actually, they've got 3 or 4 shoes. They've got this shoe for just regular trail running. They've got one designed for running when it is muddy and wet and lots of water. Sort of like mountain bikes. Mountain bikes, if you do different terrain, they have different tires, right? So this is for terrain. They've got ones that are built for water that have holes in them so the water drains. And then they have winter shoes, which have a different compound in them, but they also have one more thing. And this is a Peregrine 12 GTX. So same shoe. The grip is a lot of different, looks a bit different. It's got a different compound. It grips the ice and snow better, so more traction. And also it's got Gore-Tex to keep you dry and warm. So that's the other big difference. The thing to remember about Gore-Tex and any kind of material that does that, it might fit a little bit tighter. It doesn't have as much give as regular shoes do. So make sure these things fit. Make sure when you try them on, you're gonna wear the socks that you normally would run in wintertime, and then try these on. Do not come into the store and say, I don't normally wear these socks. We do have try-on socks, but when you come to buy a pair of shoes, wear the socks you're gonna run in those shoes, right? Maybe throw them in the car just randomly and just remember they're there. Because we get that a lot. We get that all year long is like, I don't normally wear these socks. Well, the shoe's not gonna fit the same if you've got a thicker sock or a thinner sock, right? I'm gonna talk maybe quickly about winter socks at some point in this talk. But anyway, Gore-Tex is great. There's different materials some companies use. The other thing about trail shoes and off-road trails and winter shoes, support. Again, if you're running off-road, where you really need the support, where you really need the guiding is on asphalt and concrete and hard surfaces. When you're running off-road, go neutral shoe all the way. You don't need that. It's better. It's better. I'm gonna say running on trails is better, period. But yeah, I don't think there's actually a trail shoe. There probably is. There is actually. I'm gonna see outline. There is one shoe that has support in it, but it's rare. I've never really. Again, I used to be a stability guy. Now I wear neutral shoes, but sometimes I need the support, and I feel I need it. But if I'm off road, just a regular shoe with no support in it. Every shoe has a little bit of support, but not much. Anyhow, so this is ASIC's version of a trail shoe or a winter shoe. I don't like I'm gonna say this out loud. I'm not a big fan of them taking a shoe and then just slapping traction on it. ASICS isn't bad, but there's other brands that have done that. They'll take one of the best shoes ever. They'll throw traction on the bottom of it without changing anything else in the shoe, and it just does not work. It's not the same. So if you're gonna buy a shoe for winter, for trails, buy one specifically for that that's special. Like Brooks has got a trail shoe. It's called the, we don't have one, we do, the Cascadia. So again, built for trail, not for winter. Can you use it in winter? Sure, you can use any shoe you want. You can run in a pair of Oxfords if you want, but will it work as well? Anyhow, so this is ASICS. It does have guiding, not a little bit of support. Actually, it does have support. It's got support in it, but it's more, I'm gonna say it's more for, like, again, water. If you're running in Vancouver and you need something with a little traction, the grip, fine. For ice, I don't think this would work as well. What I say, look for, if you're looking for a winter shoe, I think the only winter shoe we have up here right now is a Saucony. And again, you got that grip. So make sure you look for that. Make for specific winter grip. Not just the GTX, not just the trail shoe, make sure it's got that grip. That's probably the biggest difference. Now, we've talked about that. We've talked about shoes. We've talked about trail shoes versus everyday shoes. And again, it's important to have that traction. Now, I'm going to take this and I'm going to make you dizzy by walking across the store a little bit. Because I'm a big, after last winter, if you're from Edmonton, you know what I'm talking about. Last year, we had a plethora of days where we had freezing rain. And then days that would freeze or melt during the day, freeze overnight. You'd go for a run the next morning and you're on glare ice. You didn't even want to drive anywhere, even if you had winter tires. It was that bad. And winter tires don't really work on black ice, right? So anyway, and all seasons are like cross-training shoes. They sort of work, but not really. So traction aids, we've got a lot of them. And there's different ones, I'm going to say, for different things. And I'm going to say there's some I think are better than others. Yaktrax, I used to talk people out of buying Yaktrax. This sounds really bad, me saying that. But I always thought if you've seen a Yaktrax, I'll just show the picture here. They have springs on them. And I've heard that the springs will eventually break off. But I started wearing mine at the start of last winter, and I wore mine throughout the winter. Yes, by the end of the winter, these things wore out. The springs wore up, and broke, and the pins too. There's pins on the bottom as well. They broke off, but that was towards the spring when most of the snow had melted and I was running on asphalt. So you have to buy maybe every year, but that's fine if you're wearing them for 5 or 6 months. What the heck? You can afford the $50, right? Well, maybe not. But anyhow, I love these things. The thing I like most about them too are they're secure on your feet. They have a good secure system on your feet. They're not going to fall off, which is a problem with some of them. I don't know if we've got. We kind of do. There's these things. I don't know if you've seen these. Again, they're better than the ones we used to have. They were just like galoshes and they would fit on your shoe. And I remember last time I wore mine, I was running, and all of a sudden I can feel one foot slipping a little bit more than the other, and I looked down. Well, I lost one of the traction aids. I like that word, traction aids. And I keep running, and I see another one. Somebody else lost one. It was the right one, so I just grabbed that one. It's actually the right size. So they weren't the best. They were good for a while. If you put them on properly, they were great. You had to really secure them. You had to make sure they're the right size. These are a little bit better. I'm going to say what I like about them is they've got straps on them and they fit perfectly. You can force them to fit you, right? So that, I think the Velcro actually works really well. Again, it's personal choice, but I don't mind these. I still like the Yaktrax better. There's other ones that are really heavy duty. These are built more for boots. I don't think I'd use these for running. But other things, I'm going to show you this one. Again, we used to do this before we had traction aids. There's usually somebody in our store that was an expert at this. They would just grab metal screws from Canadian Tire, and just put them on the bottom of our shoes. There's a real problem with that, though. You have to know what you're doing with some shoes. Nike, we don't sell Nike anymore, but they were really a challenge because Nike has an air pocket on the bottom, right? And if you put the screw in the wrong spot, you would pop a hole in the air pocket, which was fine. But after you took the screws out, every time you took a step, you'd hear the whoosh, 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 whoosh. So it takes it defeats the purpose of having that shoe. And other shoes have gel and stuff, so you don't want to puncture those pockets either. So you have to really know what you're doing. But these things come with, I don't know if you can see these in the baggie, but yeah, screws, just metal screws. So you just put these on the bottom of your shoes, usually around the periphery, around the outside. I usually put more in the front than on the heel. Watch where you put them, and they work fine too. Again, they will wear out though. Once you start running on concrete and asphalt, they will wear down. And the only other thing I found about the screws, okay, the pointy part goes up. The pointy part goes up, not down. A lot of people did that, and that didn't really work. It's again, I'll bring these out. You want the head of the screw to actually be on the bottom of the shoe, and that's what provides the traction. Problem with it, I found, is if they happen to sand the trail that you're running on, can you see that? Where is it? There it is. There it is. Not really in focus, but oh well. The screw will actually fill up with snow or with sand, so you lose that traction. So that's sort of the downside to it. It does work. They do work. We've worn them forever before we had actual traction aids, before roads were paved, and they work. So that's an option. But yeah, traction aids, I'm going to say when it gets really bad, when it gets really icy, the winter shoes, the winter specific shoes work, but I'm going to say traction aids help better. And just be careful, because winter is winter. It's a danger. You don't really have this problem in the summer, right? It's slipping on frozen ice. I'm going to say this part of the year, when it's the shoulder season, slippery is wet leaves. Again, I fall a lot. I fell, 2 decades ago and fractured lower left fibula, which is my ankle. And it was just running on leaves. And I just took off and ran on an off-road trail. Fell. I thought I heard a branch or a root break underneath me. It wasn't that. It was, you know what. So yeah, so just be careful with that. Make sure you got secure traction. Make sure you're watching what you're doing. The other thing, we're not going to talk much about biomechanics. Well, maybe we will in this clinic. But when you run, make sure you get your head's up. You're looking straight ahead, not down. Look where you want to go, not where you don't want to go. If you bike, mountain bike, ski, cross-country ski, you know what happens when you look at your feet, right? You crash. So don't do that. So that's traction aids. And also there's different types. These are a little more aggressive. We just got these from called Life Sports Gear. I don't know if you can see that picture, but a little more aggressive. I'm going to say these are probably more for trail. But if you really want something a lot that you're definitely not going to slip, again, it's worth the money. I'm just going to say, you just spent $200 on a pair of shoes. Do you want to throw traction aids? And also, if you don't want to go to a winter shoe, that's an option as well too, right? If you love your shoes, just get traction aids. Again, don't worry about getting cold in winter either. Like I said, I don't know if I said it in this thing or not, but when you go out for your run, the first day it's cold, like we did that yesterday. What we notice right away is our hands get cold, right? Our hands, some people, their feet, some women, I'm going to say they're bahukis. It just happens. When you hit the cold, when it's like -20, -25, what happens is all your bodily fluids protect your vital organs, right? So they rush away from your capillaries, and your hands, yeah, your feet maybe, various body parts get cold. So expect that when you go outside in the cold. Expect those parts to get cold. Don't overdress because of that, because eventually everything warms up and your hands will warm up as well. So trust in that. I'm not going to talk clothing today. I'll do that next week. But gloves, I like mitts more than gloves. There's some gloves that have like mitt glove combo. I haven't found those really work really well, but you know, if you want to spend the money. But I like, if it's really cold, there's some gloves I love, but I always think, I used to double glove, and every so often your shoe would get untied and you'd have to retie it. So you take your hands out of the glove, and you're sweating, you're hot, your hands are moist and not really perfect. You tie up your shoe, try to put your hands, moist, wet hands, back into that glove. It's not going to work. So that's why you don't want to oversweat. You want to be comfortable, not overheated, right? So yeah, we'll talk about gloves and stuff next week, because maybe it's, well, okay, I know it's snowing in Chicago or in Montana. It's snowing in Winnipeg and Manitoba and Saskatchewan right now. It's snowing in Calgary yesterday. So yeah, winter is coming. Surprise! This is where everybody forgets how to drive. So do you want a winter-specific sock? That's why I'm over here. Do you need winter-specific socks? I'm going to say Maybe. I've always worn, forever, I've just worn our regular, everyday, Renier double layer socks, and they were fine. The problem is if you're wearing your everyday shoes, mesh on top, right? So the wind chill gets in there, it gets cold. If you have Gore-Tex on, that's not gonna happen because Gore-Tex is built to prevent that. So don't overthink the socks. Again, what socks did you wear when you bought those shoes? Still wear those socks. But if you want to go winter socks, we do have winter specific socks. Just remember, they're not really that much thicker than a double layer. They're really not. There's just the material they're made out of. They're a little bit, yeah, so they're built exactly for winter. But again, I don't overthink that part. We have waterproof socks too that nobody's really, I don't understand them. We'll talk more, that's when we talk clothing, but remember, know the difference between waterproof and water resistant. Waterproof means you're gonna stay dry no matter what, which if you live on the west or east coast, if you've ever gone fishing with the commercial fishermen and you've seen what they wear, right? The greens, the slicks, they're built to keep you absolutely dry. But the problem is once it gets warm out, once you start working and your body heats up, you're gonna start sweating like crazy. So waterproof is not the best for us. You want water resistance, so you're not gonna get wet right away. If you're running, if you're moving, you're not gonna get wet. If you're standing underneath a water spout, yes, you're gonna get wet. So that's the thing. You don't, waterproof, if you really need these, I don't really think so. They say they're breathable, so I'm gonna say that's probably a bonus. But again, I don't really overthink the socks. Maybe it's just me, but do you need winter socks? I'm gonna say it's up to you. If you got Gore-Tex, no, don't worry about it. So anyhow, that's shoes, that's socks, that's traction. Time for questions, guys. Just ask me anything. Hopefully you saved up a lot of questions. And yeah, come shop for shoes. Think about your shoes. If you want to talk about how to figure out whether you need pronation or not, we can do that after this place. Anyhow, your turn.